pray for healing, Father, for those that were injured in that incident. And I want to ask a special prayer that you put your hand on Livingston Parish, to bestow in the people in Livingston Parish, Father, brotherly love. Love, Father, that cares as much about their neighbors and their brothers and sisters as they do their self, Father, that nothing like this may ever happen again if it be your will, Father. Be with the law enforcement agencies and be with the first responders and be with the military of this country, Father, as they protect our freedom. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Mr. Scooter King, will you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Sandy, would you like to call roll, please?
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Fowler.
Here.
Mr. Lovell. Here. Mr. Avery.
Here.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Burlington.
Here.
Barely.
That's all right. I want to remind everybody, if you have a cell phone, silence it or turn it off. When we come to an item, we will allow public input. So if you have something to say, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and we will give you time to speak on it. At this time, we're going to ask Mr. Jim Ryan to the podium, please. But that's next.
Ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Livingston, Louisiana, on November 6, 2018, authorized the agreement of third party with the Indian Charter of the parish of Livingston, State of Louisiana, provide for permanence for the parish president and council members making the application to pay bond commission providing for the matters in
Let her give a number.
And this will be proposed ordinance 18-04. Hope you read that title. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on March 26th.
I second that motion.
I had a motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Garlinghouse. Ms. Sandy, you gonna be able to call the vote? Ms. Sandy?
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Knight.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You. All right, this time will be our presentation, recognition of the Live Oak cheerleaders. Mr. Talbot.
Come on, Scoop. All right. I want to take this time to recognize the Live Oak cheerleaders. This is the second time I've got to do this as a councilman. I'm making quite a habit of it. I saw on Facebook when they did it. Lacey, how many white jackets have you worn as a Live Oak cheerleader?
This is my 8th.
Wow. So I mean, they got a pretty good thing going on over there. The girls work hard. They've got good coaches, good sponsors, and they've been fairly successful. I mean, you know, when you've got 8 white jackets in your junior high and high school career because you won 8 different championships, that says a lot about the program. And make no mistake, those kids don't do it without their parent involvement and the support from the parents and from the community in fundraising and everything else. So I want to take the time to recognize the cheerleaders and their accomplishments and thank Ms. Chandler, their sponsor, for getting them all here today, and I appreciate it, and want to thank the parents for, you know, the effort you put in and the time you put in, because I know my buddy there, he gets to go watch the cheerleading events, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, I've never been to a cheerleading competition, but I don't know if it's like a dance competition. Do y'all sit around all day to wait for one cheer thing, or do you get to, yeah, it's like watching paint dry. I mean, you know, it's like one of those things. Look, my son wrestled last year, and so it's cool when you get to watch your son wrestle. But to sit there and watch everybody wrestle for hours until your son comes up, and then you sit there for hours again till he comes up, it makes for a long day. So I'm going to tell you, I know the dedication that the parents have, and I just want to tell you how much the community appreciates the support you give for the girls, and it's interesting and proud to watch the success that they've had. So without further ado, I'm gonna call them out, and Scooter's gonna handle them, and we're gonna get y'all to stay, and then after the presentation, we're gonna all come down, take a picture, and then I know y'all probably have better things to do than watch government. So you're more than free to go.
It's not as fun as you think it would be.
Miss Lacey Baldwin.
Thank you.
Miss Abby Barbay. Just take Miss Lexi Blau.
How many are there?
There's a bunch.
That's a bunch.
Miss Victoria Burr. Miss Kaylee Kaufman. Is Kaylee right?
These are really nice, too. Yep.
Miss Caitlin Cuvion. Miss Reagan Davis. I gotta tell you, that is the caboose of 3 cheerleaders.
Really? Whole family full, huh?
Mackenzie Didier. Olivia Duhan. Miss Elena Gill. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay.
Miss Elena Karras. I'm probably sure of that. Miss Aubrey Lewis. Miss Ashlyn McFadden. Miss Erica Murkowski. Miss Jordan Porter. Miss Callie Prestridge. Miss Callie Rogers. Miss Shelby Summers.
All the way across.
Like a football team.
I mean,
Miss Hallie Barnaday. Miss Caitlin Waller. Miss Courtney Webster. And Miss Brianna White. So that is the Live Oak cheerleading squad
That's
that
impressive.
won national championship.
thank you.
We'll stand behind them. Y'all kind of swing. Y'all late, I'm gonna see us. We get enough people, everybody in?
Nobody counts to 3 anymore.
Turn white. It's your fault.
Just to continue with presentations, just to let everyone know, the reason we're wearing our Final Four Walker shirts is the Walker High School basketball team is in the Final Four tonight. So if they win, they'll be playing for a state championship Saturday. And this is hands down the best basketball team Walker's ever had.
That's nice.
They're phenomenal.
Congratulations to them for making the Final Four.
Yep.
Hopefully,
That's my alma mater right there.
back them and we'll cheer them on tonight.
Hey, John,
And the game doesn't start till 8 o'clock.
So we got to hurry.
And it'll be on TV tonight.
Oh,
Can I just say one thing?
yes.
I was asked to wear this. I humbly agreed to wear this shirt to support Walker because I care about him so much. And I want to also say that Holden will have already won the state championship in girls basketball by the time this meeting is. And so we can wear Walker and support Walker for their state championship. So I would say congratulations, Holden Lady Rockets, for winning another state championship.
Nice.
And we'll,
That's right.
everybody does.
that's right.
And I'd like to say the Scooter is probably the only person in Livingston Parish history that's actually graduated from 4 different high schools.
Third through 9. Hold it. Third through 9.
There you go, buddy.
All right. We have one more presentation, Mr. John Washington.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I asked Mr. Brian McNabb tonight to come speak. He's from Senator Bill Cassidy's office in Washington, D.C. And you know, Bill does a lot with our local government to really helped us with flood things. And I believe Brian's going to take just a minute. You want to come to the podium and take just a minute and talk about the things that's going on in Washington, D.C. that affects us here in Livingston Parish. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Councilman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Parish President Ricks, thank you. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm Brian McNabb. I work for U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, and I kind of smile because I think back to the last time I was here. I think it's been a few years, but I know the Parish President will appreciate this. The last time I was here, I felt like I was on the set of a reality television show. So anyway, it's kind of nice. You remember those days? Yes, sir. But let me just say, there is I feel a sense of civility in the air tonight. So anyway, y'all are all to be commended for that. So anyway, thank you so much for having me. I just want to spend just a couple minutes talking a little bit about some of the work that Dr. Cassidy has done in Washington. I think most of y'all know Senator Cassidy, and you know his commitment and his passion for health care and mental health and the work he's done in those arenas. He was very much involved in the recent tax reform bill that passed, the first tax reform overhaul that's passed in our nation in the last 30 years. But tonight I'm really going to laser in on something that's near and dear to all of our hearts that we were all impacted by, and obviously that's the flood back in 2016. I'll talk about kind of 3 specific things that Senator Cassidy has done, and in the essence of time I'm going to be very brief on all 3. But first and foremost, one of the first things he did was go up and educate his colleagues on what actually happened. And I'm not going to go on a tirade like President Trump on the media, but I will say, and this is no disrespect to the Livingston Parish News, I'm talking more about the mainstream media. The mainstream media really didn't cover the issues down here with the flood. I mean, it was so bad that the New York Times, 2 or 3 days after the flood, penned an editorial saying shame on the mainstream media as a whole and the national media that we didn't cover this more. And apologies to the folks and the residents in Louisiana. So first and foremost, Senator Cassidy's job was to educate folks, educate his colleagues, sat down with Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, sat down with the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate. At the time, Senator Cassidy was on appropriations, and he had to educate them on what was going on, that folks were displaced, that we were in peril down here, and really, really fight hard to make sure that they knew that we needed help and we needed help fast. At the time, again, Senator Cassidy was on the Appropriations Committee. In 2 short months, he was able to get the first initial down payment. By October of 2016, he was able to secure the initial down payment of $500 million. And that, by the way, that was 2 or 3 months quicker than the first appropriation came after Katrina. So since then, Senator Cassidy, with the help of the delegation, has been able to secure over $2 billion in flood recovery dollars for the state of Louisiana. And that's their role as members of Congress, to go to Washington and bring money back home. Second thing he's done, Senator Cassidy now sits on the Senate Finance Committee, which is a very big committee. It is the top tier committee in the U.S. Senate. It oversees things like trade and tax and health care. And to give you a sense of the membership and the seniority it takes to get on that committee, and Senator Cassidy's only taken him 2 short years. You have people like Senator Orrin Hatch from Utah, who's been in the United States Senate longer than I've been on planet Earth. So for him to do that in 2 short years has proven that he is, his colleagues recognize him as a quick study and one that can really get in the trenches on policy, and he's done that. And so being on the Senate Finance Committee, he's been able to secure, during this recent tax reform legislation, he was able to secure a provision in the bill, an amendment, which would allow folks, it was just earmarked for folks from the Great Flood of 2016, where folks, the victims, would be able to write off on their individual tax returns any losses, some of the losses that they incurred during the flood of 16. So that's another thing that he was able to do. Folks can retroactively file amended returns from 16. And again, get some relief from the flood. And finally, an issue that I know as council members you probably hear about from time to time from your constituents, and that's the duplication of benefits issue. For those that don't know about duplication of benefits, I'm going to be very brief. I'll just define it real quick. It's the total assistance that one, in this case, the victim of the flood, would receive from all programs and insurance combined. That cannot exceed the fair market value of the property. So anyway, that rule actually went into place in 2011, and it's really, I think a lot of your constituents have been hurt by this rule. The Senate, a couple weeks ago on February 8th, was debating the budget for this year. And Senator, initially, in the initial language of the bill, Louisiana was left out of that duplication of benefits language. States like Florida, Texas, Puerto Rico were included from the hurricanes last year, but Louisiana wasn't included. Senator Cassidy was able to get Louisiana included into that bill. Unfortunately, they took out some of the provisions. The leadership took out some of the provisions on the duplication of benefits. Therefore, Senator Cassidy actually voted against the budget bill. There were 2 or 3 things that were sticking points for him, but one of those was the duplication of benefits issue. I know I'm running out of my time, but I will say, where do we go from here? 2 weeks from tomorrow, the Senate must pass the annual spending bill, the omnibus bill. Senator Cassidy is working behind the scenes with the leadership to try to get the full provisions for duplication of benefits put in to make our folks and our residents back here in the Capital Region and in Livingston Parish whole again. So anyway, stay tuned. But again, Councilman, thank you. Again, my good buddy John Wascom, here he goes by Councilman, but but thank you for the invite. Thanks for allowing us to share. And let me just say one more thing. If our office, we have 7 offices around the state. Our closest one is here in Baton Rouge. If our office can ever be a resource to you or your constituents, not only with flood relief, but if you have a senior that's having trouble with the Social Security Administration or a veteran who's having issues with the VA, give us a holler and consider us a resource. So again, thank y'all, and thanks for the work y'all do for the parish. God bless. Thank you.
Now let's get down to business. Item 9, adopt the minutes. I guess we do all these together. We'll do the February 22nd, 2018, the special meeting of the council. February 22nd, 2018, Jubing Crossing Economic Development District meeting. And February 22nd, 2018, regular meeting of the council. We'll get a motion. Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. Gerlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item 10, Parish President report.
Thank you, Council. I'm supporting agreeing to support Walker tonight. I'm just thankful that Paul didn't ask me to put on a cheerleading outfit to support Live Oak cheerleaders earlier, because that would not have been very pretty. Just a little update. I know I had mentioned before on the Laurel Levy situation the possibility of asking the council to move forward on the suit. I think it's a little premature at this time. I have been in conversations with Parish President Matassa, certainly with our attorney Chris Moody, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. We have received some additional information today that our engineers will pour through, and Parish President Matassa has assured me that any and all information from any studies that have been done or will be done in the very near future, that we will have that information to go through, that in no way are they wanting to do anything to jeopardize this parish. I've assured him that I'll give us some time to look at that. But if that's not the case, then at the right time we will move forward. But I do think it's a little premature tonight to ask for that, so we're going to hold off on that. That's really all I had on, well, I didn't actually have that on the parish president report, but that's all I wanted to discuss on that. But I'm covering for Mark tonight.
All right, item 11, Homeland Security.
FEMA, as you know, has extended the timeline for the trailers till May, and they've asked us to all support their timelines. They are working diligently to get people out of these FEMA trailers. Matter of fact, the state has formed a task force. Mark was telling me that right now, where there were over 2,000 FEMA trailers, we're down now to under 200. And the task force is working very hard with FEMA to get people back into their homes and get them out of there. So I'm asking the council by resolution to support at least going to that timeline. Mark does feel like they're going to ask for an additional 3 or 4 months at the end of this timeline, but we really won't know that until we get there.
Can we just make our timeline coincide with FEMA's?
Sure. FEMA's done theirs, so yes.
And so that way, if their timeline changes, ours would change.
They wouldn't have, you wouldn't have to come back to
Yeah.
us.
I would like to make a motion that we do that along to make our timeline coincide with FEMA's.
They know better than us when it.
Right. Well, I agree, and I appreciate that.
And you can get that motion. Motion by Mr. Garland House, second by Mr. Avery. Can you call for the vote?
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Aker?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wassam?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
We're going to
Thank
get
you,
the
counsel.
resolution later.
I do want to,
The actual resolution.
yeah, we'll reword it and change the date on it so that y'all can sign off on it. And just another little update, Council Chairman Jeff Ard and I went to D.C. for the NACO convention this past weekend and got back yesterday actually on that. We did meet with Senator Cassidy and Congressman Graves, and what Brian said earlier is absolutely true. That's what we went there to talk to them about, a couple of the things, and they are working very hard on that. I would just like to say, again, publicly, thank you to them to continue to work on that, because the last thing we need is our national flood insurance rates to either be canceled or go up. So I appreciate that. Thank you, council.
Thank you. All right, item 12, Planning Commission recommendation. Mr. Stan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First on the agenda is Holden Travel Plaza. This particular preliminary site plan has been deferred because of lack of information, so the Planning Commission will revisit this next month. And that's in Mr. Shane Mack's district. Next on your agenda is Mr. John Blunt's servitude revocation, introduction of an ordinance. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the servitude revocation for Mr. John Brunt, LLC, contingent on receiving no objection letters before signature. All that's in place. Actually, that servitude does not need anything. The folks that live there at the site have their own dedicated servitude, so it's just a moot point.
Ms. Ainsley, read by title.
This is proposed ordinance 18-05, revoking the dedication, abandoning, and quitclaiming in favor of John Blunt LLC, a 60-foot servitude of passage identified by the crosshatched portion as shown on the map showing survey of the revocation of a 60-foot servitude of passage across tract SC-2 located in section 24 T6S-R3E, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, by Brett J. Martin, professional land surveyor, dated November 17, 2017. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on March 22nd.
Motion by Mr. Garland, second by Mr. Mack. All in favor? All opposed?
Next on your agenda is another servitude revocation, North Oaks Health System. This is in Mr. Jeff Avertt's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the servitude revocation for North Oaks Health System, contingent on receiving no objection letters also. And we didn't need the no objection because North Oaks owns the whole entire piece of property, so they're just moving it over.
Angie, read by title.
This will be proposed ordinance 18-06, revoking the dedication, abandoning, and quitclaiming in favor of North Oaks Health System, a 50-foot common access servitude identified by the crosshatched portion as shown on the map showing revocation of an existing 50-foot common access servitude across track 2-A located in section 3, T7-R4E, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, by Brett J. Martin, professional land surveyor, dated November 7, 2017. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on March 22nd.
Motion by Mr. Avers, second by Mr. King. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Okay, guys, the next on the agenda is another servitude revocation, and I might add too, these revocations went to the Planning Commission back in December, so there just was lacking some information, which we got our main guy back online, so he took care of all that for us, and now we're just reintroducing these things. Other than the John Blunt, it just come up. Jesse and Barbara Hodges, servitude revocation. This is in Mr. Shane Mack's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the servitude revocation for Jesse and Barbara Hodges, also contingent on receiving no objection letters. They're just staying on their property, moving the line over some. Letters are moot point.
This will be proposed ordinance 18-07, revoking the dedication, abandoning, and quitclaiming in favor of Jesse and Hodges, a 35-foot servitude of passage and a 60-foot right-of-way, identified by the crosshatched portion as shown on the map showing survey and division of tracts MH-1A, MH-1B, and remaining portion of tract 3 into tracts MH-1A-1 and MH-1B-1, and the revocation of a 35-foot servitude of passage and a 60-foot right-of-way located in Section 40 T6S-R5E, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, by Brett J. Martin, professional land surveyor, dated November 20th, 2017. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on March 22nd.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Avers. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Okay, should I go on to 13?
Yep.
Item 13 is to authorize the Livingston Parish Sewer District to place a sanitary system and facility within public right-of-ways. I've got all the proper paperwork in place now. If you remember, we talked about this meeting before last, and all the paperwork's in place for the corporate endeavor. We're okay. So I'm satisfied. I need y'all to give them permission, though.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Motion by Mr. Gardenhouse, second by Mr. Watson. Any comment from the council? Comment from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Okay, next on the agenda, same situation. Authorization for Hidden Lakes Estates, LLC, to place sanitary sewer facility within the public right-of-ways, and I do have all the paperwork in place to move forward with the project. I just need a recommendation from the council for them to do so.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gardenhouse, second by Mr. Avers. Comment from the council? Comment from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Okay,
Move on to 14.
move on to 14. Plainview Ridge first filing. This is a recommendation to accept the roads and improvements into the parish maintenance system. Do you want to do it, Miss Sandy, and also release the bond, or you want to do two separate?
Either way, it's best separate.
First, to accept it into the parish maintenance.
We're going to need a motion to accept the roads.
This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district.
It's district
Actually, it's in mine.
scooters.
Well, it's in Mr. Gary Talbot's and Scooter King's. It's close.
I'll
Well,
make
that's
a motion
true.
to accept it.
Well, I mean, we talked about earlier, the instance is there now, it's good. And they plan on having a second entrance that's gonna be in my district.
North of there.
And this is the first filing, and the bonds expired Actually, the bond's not expired, the 18-month maintenance period's expired.
Right.
And so the bonds can be released if we accept it. However, they've already, the second filing is the second filing complete?
Yeah, the second file is complete.
Second filing's complete. Are they building houses in the second yet?
Yes.
No, the second's complete. They've got houses in the second.
Got houses in the second. Are they
This is the
working?
third file. Sir?
This is the first we're talking about. Are they working on the third yet?
Well, I think the language has just begun as far as our engineers are concerned. Am I right, Preston? Chad? I don't think they've started yet.
Third filing or the first?
This is
Have
the
they
first.
started on the third filing, the construction? I don't think the construction plans has been finalized.
But what are they doing? 5, 6? I mean, they gave us a preliminary, didn't they? Isn't there 5 or 6, or how are they getting all the way to Ford's going to Huntstock? At what point in time on those do they have to address the new road and the exit and the?
Are you talking about going to the north side? I think third, I don't know, Chris, I'd have to probably check that. I don't want to tell you something that could be wrong.
But ultimately, the question is, if we release the bonds now and they continue to build through it, they're going to continue to run all those heavy equipment on our roads.
What we required in the past is a additional bond.
Right.
We're going to release this bond for the maintenance, but we're going to create an additional bond for the roads that they're going to travel on.
Okay.
And we've already talked to them. We've even thought about maybe coming in off of Hunstock with a construction type entrance, so you can just stay out of that subdivision.
Okay.
That's going to be left up to the developer and,
Huntstock Road.
the engineer.
So we got a motion from Mr. King to accept the roads improvements maintenance system. Second.
A second.
Second by Mr. Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, if you would, we want to release the $126,705.86 maintenance bond.
Motion by Mr. King. Second by Mr. Averett. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, next is Oak Landing subdivision. Same situation, accept the roads and improvements into our maintenance program.
And that's subdivision.
That's completely
They're
Mr.
done.
Scooter's.
I think they're building the last 3 houses, but
I think it's-
he sold out lots, I believe. There might be one, but I don't know, but I'll make a motion to do that.
All right, motion by Mr. King to accept roads and improvements in the maintenance system. Second by Mr. Harris. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And second is to release the $28,456.40 maintenance bond.
Motion by Mr. King. Second by Mr. Lobel. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next is the reserves at Cross Creek. This is in Mr. Tracy's district. It's a recommendation to accept the roads and improvements into the Livingston Parish maintenance system.
Everything's
Everything's good, yeah.
mine. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse.
Second.
Second by Mr. Waston. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And to release the $75,184.76 maintenance bond.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse. Second by Mr. Harris. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you, Mr. Simon. Yep, we can go ahead.
Want to leave early.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, before you leave, I think we're gonna
We're gonna need
The addendum?
do, no, that was what Mr. Layton talked about. That is 17, discussion of boondocking lane. Mr. Shane Mack?
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I wanted to put this on the agenda at the request of one of my constituents, Miss Georgia Hall. Was some discrepancy, possibly, in whether or not the entire gravel road was in the parish maintenance system, how it was documented to be in the parish maintenance system. And I just kind of wanted Miss Georgia, if she's here, to come up and talk about the situation, and then give Mr. Sam an opportunity to talk, and then, if it be the will of the council, make a decision on, how it's going to be in the future.
Please state your name and your address.
My name is Georgia Hall, H-A-L-L. I live at 30800 Boondocking Road, Holden, Louisiana, 70744. My mailing address is Post Office Box 95, Holden, Louisiana, because I do not get mail service. Neither do I get garbage service. So my garbage is piling up big time. But anyway, when I am a 24/7 caregiver for a person with a permanent total disability and a traumatic brain injury. We have been on the road traveling, going to doctors in 4 different states. I have been in and out of my home for the past 18 years since he was injured. So I had no knowledge of some of the things that was happening here. I have the paperwork from 1977 where we first went through this same issues, and it was taken in. Crown Zellerback at the time, their attorney, wrote up the right-of-way and everything and gave it to the parish council. The parish president signed it, and it was recorded in the clerk of court's office. So we had, at that time, Boondocking Road was part of Edna Kinchin Road. It was before 9/11. So Edna Kinchin Road came in and it split. My road, Boondocking Road, belongs to the council. It is on the left-hand side. The right-hand side, they decided to leave it as the Edna Kinchin Road. So whenever 911 came through, we had to change it, because of 911 calls and everything. So we had to name it, it was named Cockerham East. Well, if you call in to 911 and you tell them that you have an emergency on Cockerham Road East, they tell you real fast, like, hang up and call Dillon Springs. Yep. Because Cockerham West is in Dillon Springs. But you know how locals are. They drop it. Matter of fact, I found out on the resolution that y'all passed in 2002, it was dropped. So I'm asking is that we go back and work with the paperwork that was taken in 1977 and accepted by the council. It gives the length of each section of the road. My section of Edna Kinchin Road was number 1, from 190 to V was section 2, and from that section back to where the Vickners live is section 3. So, but our issue comes up in chains. They donated 95.5 chains on that road. 66 feet to a chain, and it comes up to something like, I believe, let me check it for you guys. It comes up to 6,289 feet, 0.14. That's what it comes up to. So if we set it up like that, my road, I can't say my road, it belongs to the parish, but the road that leads to my house is exactly 3,527.7 feet. At this time, according to your 2002 resolution, I only have 1,848 feet. Well, when you go back 1,848 feet, you are in the middle of a road, no turnaround, no nothing. You have to go all the way back to where I live to be able to turn around. So when the grader comes back and grades the road, they have to actually pick up the grader blade, go back to my place, turn around, and come back out and put the grade blade down again and grade it back out. That's what's been happening. I didn't know the reason. I just found out recently about the 2002 resolution that was passed that I believe Grant Bankston, when he was living, did these numbers. But the numbers I come up with, I can use this to prove it, but I haven't been able to find out where they came up with the numbers that they used to only take in part of Boondocking Road, which was Edna Kitchen Road. Is that way overkill, or do you understand where I'm going to? So we have a clash. If I understand, we have a clash chain with mine, the one that was filed with the clerk of court's office, and the resolution that was passed in 2002. I believe it's September 30th, 2002.
It seems to be very confusing to me. Maybe it sounds...
That's what I'm saying. It was confusing to me also.
Sandy did a ton of research on this, and I think she could probably speak to it. I mean,
Sam, would you be willing to come up and talk?
Well, and I've met with this Jordan before. A long time ago, we visited her place there back when I first come aboard with Mr. Rexall. And I'm sure what she's saying is all great, good information, because I don't have anything to say different. But I know we have a road list that we go by. And we have a footage list that we go by. And that's as far as we go down these roads. And I'm just using hypothetical numbers here. If it says 800 feet on that road, we go 800 feet on that road. I know that that's the only information I've got to work with. It was changed. It was changed, I guess, in the Grant Bankston days. I don't know why. I might have been around, but I wasn't involved in it. But that's basically all I can say. I mean, where she lives is behind the parish end of the line, and I think you live back there in a motorhome, don't you? Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm? Okay.
Can you talk about the research you did, or are you not comfortable?
Yes, you can talk. Okay. The Grant Bankston list has Cockram Road, location Edna Kitchen. The length is 1,848 feet. That's the Grant Bankston list. It called it Cockram Road. Now, on April 25th, 2006, Miss Georgia sent a petition, or she was the only one on the road that signed it. She wanted to rename that road from Cockram Road East to Boondocking Road. So for whatever reason, the Grant Bankston list has it as Cockram Road because it was located off Edna Kitchen, but it names the 1,848 feet, which does not include an additional maybe 2,000 feet beyond that. And then she lives on that additional footage right towards the back of the road. Yeah. Is that correct? And then there was LPR number 06284, which renamed Cockram Road East off of Edna Kitchen Road between Holden and Albany as Boondocking Road. It is a typo, an error on the agenda. It's not Boondocking Lane. It is Boondocking Road.
But the road is okay, but we still have an issue because we have to go to the house. I have a four-wheel drive pickup truck. The other night going in, about 5 o'clock, I only go out if it hasn't rained in a couple days. I got stuck in a four-wheel drive truck, and I had to winch myself out. So my request was that we go back and use the clerk of court's filing instead of the 2002, because I can't find any paperwork where Grant Bankston used to come up with the total of our road.
Can I make a recommendation? Can you look into this situation and advise the council on how we should handle this situation?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I'm a little trying to make sense of it, but I'll be happy to look at it and see what remedy you might have to accommodate the lady.
But Chris, the thing about it is, even though there was a right-of-way granted to the parish that was however 6,000 feet long or whatever it is, when Grant Bankston was established, they only took 1,000 feet of that whole total into the maintenance system.
Right.
So we're not denying whether there was a right-of-way back to her house had been granted to the parish.
Right.
Grant Bankston only established that the first 1,000-something feet would be in the maintenance system. So even though they changed names and whatever, Grant Bankston's initial deal was the first 1,000 feet coming off the highway. And so that was the only part that was in the maintenance system according to the initial deal.
But why?
Because the question is that you got to ask the people that were in the council in 2003 that established Grant Bankston. But everything we've done, you know, from the previous councils up to this point, was based on whatever Grant Bankston. They drew a line in the sand and said, if you're on Grant Bankston at a certain footage, then you're in the maintenance system. And if you're not on that list, you're not in the maintenance system. And then when they established what the guidelines were, only those roads that were on the maintenance system were in the maintenance system. And so, you know, in reality, to get on the maintenance system now, you have to meet the new standard.
Right. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, but I'll be happy to look at it and see.
If I might, and what you're saying, a lot of that's true, and nothing detrimental to Miss Gloria. Georgia, I'm sorry. That's close.
It's okay.
But Grant Bankston was accompanied by an engineer. And we've got several roads in chains and tabs and Jeffs that, you know, the servitude shows that fault. But the parish maintenance stops here, simply because there wasn't nobody there beyond. And Grant and the engineer drew that line in the sand and said, we don't need to go any further because we don't have any residents.
Just because the right-of-way is there and dedicated to the parish, does that mean that we would need to work that piece of land, that piece of road?
Like I say, it stops
where it's shown in the book.
And the reason being, nothing was beyond. But to answer your question, you know, we don't develop.
Right, no, we can't.
We don't develop. We don't have the manpower nor the equipment to develop roads. We maintain what's been accepted.
Yeah.
So I know this is not what this lady wants to hear, but it's several places. Several places in the parish have this situation.
Have the same issue.
And,
Okay.
you know,
Very common.
we can't.
The misconception that just because it's been taken into the system that you have an obligation to maintain it because it's just not practical.
I mean, everywhere you drive around and see a red street sign, there's a parish right-of-way there, but that road's not in the maintenance system. So that doesn't, just because there's a parish right-of-way exists, doesn't necessarily make it in the maintenance system. I mean, there's a distinction between the two. So just because the parish was given a right-of-way doesn't mean that they took it in the maintenance system when they established Grant Bankston.
The whole length of the right-of-way.
The whole length of the right-of-way.
They decided where they
some
wanted to
portion
stop.
of it, and that's all they've maintained to this.
So I think that was the right thing, Shane, is if Mr. Chris could delve into this a little bit.
Yeah.
It looks like it's one of those situations where you just, can you maintain 2,000 feet of right-of-way? And I don't think we can.
So I think you're right. I think that's the right direction. Look at the paperwork that was filed and make a recommendation and have to move forward.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing, though. There was an ordinance signed with that when it was accepted, saying that the council would continue to keep the road in a condition according to the...
Have you found that ordinance anywhere, or have you tried to look it up? Because we
Yes,
can
sir. look
for that.
Yeah, they the ladies looked it up and printed it out. I don't know if it's in your
Oh, y'all
packet or
did
not.
find that?
No, it's not
Does the
in your
ordinance give a
packet.
footage?
I think
Ordinance?
Lauren looked it up on the clerk report's website.
Resolution.
That's a resolution. It's not an ordinance.
Look, I can look at all.
Yeah,
that.
it's not something we can decide tonight anyhow, so let's get it all together and look at it from every direction, and then we can see where we can go with it. So we're open to doing, I mean, you know, if it's something you can do.
Okay, as long as, just let me know when we're going to get together so I can.
I'll be in contact with you.
Yeah.
That's the best step to take. We look at anything we need to.
Well, in the meantime, I'm still having problems.
Can't get home.
Right. When it rains, it's supposed to rain Saturday, guess what?
See, our problem with that is it's illegal for us to improve a road that is not in the parish maintenance system. Isn't that the way it works?
Yep.
Not supposed to spend any parish money on them. That's right. So if we said, hey, Mr. Sam, go do that, he'd go, I can't do that. And that's where we're at. So Mr. Chris would have to see legally whether it's something that we can get him to.
Well, that's, my issue was, I couldn't see how this road was taken, a resolution, everything was done, and all of a sudden, one person or an engineer decided only go down this far. It doesn't make sense. And we've had that place now for 40-something years. In the last 18, like I said, we've been traveling.
Where's that at in Holden? I've probably been down that road.
It's off of Florida Boulevard, halfway between Holden and Albany, on the north side.
On the north side, past the plant.
We're gonna let Mr. Moody look into it, and we'll Mr. Shane to get back with you on that. And,
Okay.
We'll
Thank you.
dig into
Appreciate
it, do
you
what we can for you. Thank you. All right, let's move back up to 15. Public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 18-03, amend section 13-54.1, street standards. And read this by title, Ms. Annie?
This is proposed ordinance 18-03, an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Planning and Development, Section 13-54.1, Street Standards, Part A, to include the criteria and regulations of the latest edition of the Louisiana DOTD standards specifications for roads and bridges of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston.
So I make a motion, we adopt this ordinance tonight. We talked about this last time, guys, we're already requiring this on the plans. We just kind of wanted to make sure we got it in the ordinance and make sure everybody was aware in the beginning while they're planning and, the subdivision, and so I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance tonight.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Gardenhouse. Any discussion from the council? Comment from the public? Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbell?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
All right, moving on to 16. Board resignation and appointments. Livingston Parish Planning Commission, Mr. Tab Lobel.
Yeah, Justin Young is stepping down. He's just got too much going on, but I got a very good guy that's going to step in and take his place, Mr. James Verbois. So he's written and ready to go.
Great.
Thank you.
And good ones.
Very good
The Planning
addition.
Commission helps us, so it's good to have good
definitely.
people on it.
That's
No,
a
I'll make
motion
a
by
motion.
Mr. Lobel, second by Mr. Mack.
To accept the resignation.
To accept the resignation first.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, I need a motion.
Put James Verbois on the plan.
Put James. All right, motion by Mr. Lobel, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, 16B, Gravity Drainage District Number 5 Board reappointment, Mr. Avery.
Mr. Richard Harris and Mr. Robert Huffman are both up for reappointment, and I'll make that motion. Can we do them together? Ben?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Nobody objects.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Avery, second by Mr. Watson. Any comment? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Move on to 18. Introduction of ordinance, rescind LP number 17-41 and abolish mosquito abatement district and board. What I've decided to do on this one, I'm going to give each councilman 5 minutes to discuss. If you don't have nothing to say, you can just defer. We'll move to the next councilman. I know everybody has a lot to say on this. I'm going to ask the councilman, please don't step over somebody else's talking. Everybody have their turn, and then we'll do a little rebuttal on the back end. Mr. Mack, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. Yes, I requested the introduction of this ordinance to rescind and abolish the mosquito abatement district and board, for it to be placed on this agenda. I want to make sure that the people and council of Livingston Parish understand exactly why I requested this. It was after the testimony of Michelle Osborne Gibbs. I felt that I wasn't sure that this was healthy for the citizens of Livingston Parish to disperse the chemicals that are within the mosquito abatement spray over our lovely parish. These chemicals, dumped into our streams, dumped on top of us, absorbed in the skin, dumped on our plants for human consumption. I just don't agree with it. So that's why the number one reason I was against it. Number two, it's because I feel that we should focus our energy and efforts on our roads and getting them into the shape that we need them to get in, and our funds that we have, the limited amount of funds we have for that. I felt like we should focus our energy and efforts on improving the drainage systems in Livingston Parish. I felt that you could do a better job of reducing the amount of mosquitoes in Livingston Parish by getting rid of the stagnant water. Number three, it was at the request of the constituents that I represent. I humbly and respectfully honor their request, and they elected me to ensure the best way I know how that their money was spent wisely. And we tried the mosquito abatement spraying one time before in Livingston Parish, and it seemed to the majority that it just wasn't very effective whatsoever, and that the money that was put forth was wasted. And so I am against the mosquito abatement program. I do not want to see any funds contributed to this out of the general fund. I do not want to see any type of fee tacked onto a electric bill, and I do not want to see a tax at this present time to fund a mosquito abatement program. This was originally introduced to us as a research board, as a fact-finding board to gather information about fighting mosquitoes. I am open to that research and improving our quality of life in Livingston Parish. However, that being said, we do not need a mosquito abatement board to do research. The last meeting we had to talk about it and gather that research, we met as a council and individuals presented data, and we talked about it afterwards. That's why I move, with the will of the council, to make a motion to introduce the ordinance to abolish the mosquito abatement district in Livingston Parish. And let me close with saying, I've known a lot of my loved ones in Livingston Parish to develop cancer. I have no data to back this up, but whenever they go to those highly intelligent professionals, most all of them will tell you that those doctors recommend an organic lifestyle.
30 seconds.
Okay? To me, I would like to see more organic lifestyle in Livingston Parish, such as the strawberry farmers. And I feel that if we dump those chemicals on top of those vegetables and fruits and stuff, I don't see how you could say that would be possible. I'm against it. I'm going to say it's nothing personal. I think the councilmen of this Livingston Parish have done an outstanding job so far, but this is a business decision, and I do not think that is the right direction of Livingston Parish at this time to fund and to oversee a mosquito abatement operation.
All right, time's up.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lobel.
I'll be brief. A lot of folks in my area are just not for this project. I've talked to a lot of them, and I've had people talking to other folks. I think that maybe one day in our side of the parish, yes, but right now we have other things that I think are more important. I think the drainage is more important than the mosquito abatement. Now, I will be the first to admit, and I've told Gary, that we live on two separate sides of the parish that are a whole lot different. There's a lot of room in my area that's not covered up with subdivisions. But I just don't think that it will be as effective in my side of the world, and my folks are the same way. So I'm kind of with Shane that I don't think right now, today, for me, I'm not for it.
Mr. Aber.
I guess I'm going to be the first one that's going to be for not abolishing this board. The board, we're not wanting to put a tax on the people. We're for education. We're wanting to learn about this. It's something I'm willing to learn about. And talking about drainage done been shot down one time over here. So we can X that out. I'm not for mosquito abatement, don't get me wrong, but I am willing to sit here and learn about mosquito abatement for the future. That's all I got.
All right. Hey, I just real quickly, I'd say that I'm probably the most in between on this whole discussion, because in my district, I have probably about a third of the district that's covered by the town of Livingston that's sprayed, the rest of it that's not. So believe me when I say I get it from both sides. You know, I have some people that are protected, some that aren't. The concerns that I have as a councilman is we got a lot of people that talk about the chemicals being harmful, killing bees, killing dragonflies, lightning bugs. If that's the case, then why are we allowing our municipalities to spray? That needs to be looked into. I mean, if it's that harmful, then we need to look into it. You know, just like the lady that come here, Mr. Shane knows, that got sick from it. We had a lady here with a baby that's deaf in one ear and blind in one eye from a mosquito bite. You know, I personally know two guys that have, one walks with a cane and one was in the hospital for 2 months from West Nile. So it's definitely not something that we need to just turn away from. We need to gather the data. We need to stay on top of it. We need to watch this closely. Are we ready for a tax? No, because the data that I seen, I didn't see it was time. I didn't see it. But we don't need a mosquito board to keep gathering information. We can have people come to every meeting. We can continue getting this information. We can stay on top of it to where if we start seeing a trend where we're getting 20, 30 people a year getting sick, and you look at the areas that are spraying around us and they're still staying down to 2 or 3 getting sick, then I think it's worth taking to the public and saying, here, look at the data. You know, we're constantly getting more and more people sick, and the people that are spraying aren't. So it's obviously doing something. Right now, that data's not there. I didn't see it. you know. So, you know, I also go along with the drainage. I think everybody that sat here and spoke said that 50% of getting rid of mosquitoes is getting your drainage done. That's more of an issue to me than mosquitoes right now. So that's pretty much where I stand on it. And you know, I do think that in the future we probably will have a need for it, but it's just not right now. Mr. Bowler?
It's going to be short and sweet, but I'm going by the constituents throughout the parish, not just in my district. But if you look back, the mosquito abatement program has been voted down twice by the people. And if we put it out there for another tax right now, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be voted down again. And I know I've got a lot of subdivisions in my area, and I've been through and talked to a lot of people there, and they said it hasn't helped them at all. And I don't know if it's the way that they have sprayed or what the situation is in that case, you know. But I'm not totally against it. But I'm like everybody else. I just think I'd like more information on it.
All right. Mr. Wasson.
You know, anything I say, I'm kind of just repeating myself because I've said the same thing for the last 3 times we've talked about it. I just think the people in this parish voted twice when it came up. They said, no, we don't want to, we vote no for a parish-wide mosquito abatement. There's so many more options of people. If you have mosquito problems, you can hire individual companies to come to your house and treat your yard so much better. They're so effective. I mean, you can have a party or a wedding reception in your backyard and not get bitten. They put a warranty on that. But I've sat in my backyard in the city of Denham Springs as a truck goes by and I'm swatting mosquitoes. And I just think it's a very ineffective. If the truck kills 2% of the mosquitoes, that means none of your money's being spent on actually being productive when you can be a lot more efficient. And if we took I think Baton Rouge guy came and said spent $5.5 million. If we just took $1 million, we could put a culvert cleaning machine in every district. We could clean every culvert out in this parish and keep the water moving so there wouldn't be mosquitoes. You know, and plus, another way, people would get water draining from the house quicker. And it solved 2 problems, the mosquitoes and a flooding issue. And the list goes on of reasons why I've been constantly and steadily against the parish-wide mosquito abatement program. I hate mosquitoes as much as anyone, and I just don't think we should use a West Nile scare tactic to try to put a parish-wide mosquito abatement program in place. We've done that already. We've tried it. It didn't work. And, you know, so that's kind of where I stood on it, and I appreciate some other council members feeling the same way. And, you know, so that's all I have to say, I guess, for that.
All right. Mr. King.
All right. Well, I don't have anything oh, no, that's bull. Okay, first off, I'm not far against mosquito abatement at this point whatsoever. We were contacted by an entomologist from LSU that said we needed to get a program going because they thought that this year in 2018 we were going to have a major influx of West Nile type mosquitoes, not just mosquitoes, because the whole idea is to get rid of the disease-carrying mosquitoes. Just you know, nuisance mosquitoes is not the problem. It's the ones that carry disease. We've seen it. I've seen it. I've had plenty of calls since the meeting we had where people said, I've visited my people in the nursing home. They can't walk. They can't move. I've been told it's more like ending up with polio if it doesn't kill you, the neuroinvasive type. So it's something we really need to look at. I grew up in Holden knowing Mr. Mike and Miss Claire and Michelle. Love these people to death. I've known them forever. But then I also see that she's claiming that the chemicals did this. No way for me to know. I can't possibly pull that out. But then I see the lady with the baby that at 4 days old was diagnosed with West Nile neuroinvasive, and the baby's going to be in a bad way its whole life. So we don't have to have an either or here, guys. We can make it happen for both by having the board in place, doing our education, learning what kind of a plan of action we put in place in the event that West Nile does become rampant. You know, God forbid, I hope it doesn't, and I hope we look at this and go, well, that was stupid. We didn't even need to look at this, you know. But if we don't have a board in place, we don't want to fill up all our time as the council here with just mosquito abatement. But we wanted to put a 9-member board in place so that everyone is equally represented. A lot of the boards have 5 people on them, and that's fine when you're only in 2 or 3 districts. But when you're talking about something parish-wide, as per the Planning Commission, they used to have 5, they went to 9, so every area would be represented. And you don't have to do it yourself. You can put a designee in there if you feel the need that you got to commit more time to drainage and different things that we deal with every day. You know, I know we all get calls about drainage. And like Jeff said, that drainage failed in, 2/3 of the parish. So, I mean, that's not just going to happen. And it's not taking money from anything else in the parish for us to get these studies, get people to come talk to us, let us know. I think we don't have to have either or. If a board's in place, we do all the homework, we get our whole plan of action in place, and it happens, we can make sure that the program is run as effectively without harming human life, because the whole idea is to keep West Nile from harming human life. It isn't so that we can not get bitten by a mosquito that just, we've been bitten thousands of times before this was here. But the odds are going up. When they come to us and say, guys, then the DHH guy, he came in, he said, guys, judging by the numbers that we've seen of cases since 2002, y'all are way up there at the top per population. So is this going to get better? I don't think it is. I hope to God it just goes away. West Nile just disappears, but it's not. But I just think it would be wrong to dissolve a board that all we're here for is to plan. Get a plan in place. If it does happen, we can present it to the parish president and Mr. Layton. We really need to do something now. And we'd know where to start. It wouldn't be about, oh, well, let's just start spraying indiscriminately that might kill all the stuff Jeff pointed out, the fireflies and whatever. If you do it properly and what the label says, it's not harmful to people and it's not harmful to the bees and the butterflies that we all need. You got to have all that to grow crops. And that'd be the last thing you want to do is have that go away. But I just think it'd be wrong to dissolve it at this time. So I'm going to vote no to dissolve this. And that's all I got to say.
Good job. Good to hear. 30 seconds.
What? I practiced a lot.
Write that down.
No, I'm kidding.
All right. Mr. Talbot.
I'm kind of surprised that it's come to this, but when we introduced this thing back in September and then voted on it in October, we talked about what the purpose was, the language about the authority to levy taxes and service charges and incur debt. They exist. They were in the thing. It wasn't hidden from anybody. The section that said we could actually put a service charge on waterworks within waterwork districts. When we put the board together, we covered all our bases if we chose to try to raise revenue, that it would be there. Make no mistake, I've been called a liar and dumb because I said it wasn't our intent to we weren't going to apply taxes to people, and somebody said that it said in the ordinance that we could levy. It gives us the right. It doesn't give us the permission. Permission's granted by the constituents, through a vote of the people. That's the only way that a tax or fee is going to be put forth. The thing I want to talk about is we keep talking about all these elections. If we want to get down to it, there have been 4 elections in Livingston Parish on mosquito bait, and it's been beat 3 times. In April of 2003, there was an election put forth for a $2.50 monthly charge on meters, and it failed. But the surprising thing is the only two council districts that didn't have a box supported was 8 and 9. And the city of Denham and District 3, right next to the city of Denham, overwhelmingly supported mosquito abatement in 2003. Then, so the council put the same deal back on the ballot in November of 2003. The same deal. I talked to some old folks who want to know why it was different. Some people from my district, and they just said they kind of let us know what was going on. That particular election, every council district had a box that voted yes in that particular election. District 3 and District 4, District 5 and District 7 and District 2 overwhelmingly supported mosquito abatement in 2003. What we found out, though, or what they found out, is that they couldn't make DEMCO collect $250 a month from them. So basically, the Mosquito Abatement Board put a $30 surcharge on every meter. The issue was there was no mechanism to make people pay. It basically was a volunteer. We're going to bill you $30 on your meter, but we can't make you pay. And as time progressed and people realized that, certain people weren't participating, it got to where, people who paid initially didn't pay later on. So it came to the council that they needed funding, permanent type funding, for mosquito abatement. So the council in November 6th of 2012 held an election for a $3 property tax. The ironic thing about that is there was about 66% of the population voted in that election. So that election was fairly representative of Livingston Parish, more so than probably any election we've had in this decade other than that particular election. 42% of the people supported it, 58 voted against it. Now, what did we learn from that? We learned that 42% of the people were willing to have mosquito abatement and pay a property tax for mosquito abatement. Something that's almost impossible to get passed in Livingston Parish, property tax. If it's not supporting schools or the sheriffs, we had 42% supported. And of that 42%, it was overwhelmingly supported in the city of Denham Springs with 4 boxes supporting mosquito abatement. So the question is, the 58% that voted against it, who voted against mosquito abatement? Who voted against property tax? That's an interesting question. And if you follow social media and you follow the discussion, you're going to realize that there's a large vocal group that are against taxes, period. It doesn't matter what it supports.
37.
And then there's another group that feels that mosquito abatement is a good thing, but they're not willing to pay a property tax. There was a lot of thought that went into this board when I drafted the ordinance, and what we hoped that we were going to do was educate the council, become educated, come up with a plan, try to put a budget together, and then look for an acceptable funding source. That's all we were trying to do. We're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. And if an acceptable funding source wasn't available, then we'd have never brought it before the people. But the shame of it is we're never going to find out if that's available to us, because there has been a large vocal group against taxes, no matter what kind.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
I'm going to reiterate a lot of what some of these guys going last. I guess the bad part about it. But, whenever we voted to form this board, I voted yes, strictly based on the fact that I wanted to gather facts. In hindsight, it was a mistake. I think that we, like you said, we could have done the fact gathering as the council, as we are, who we are. But nonetheless, this gentleman came the last meeting and they presented, what I wanted to know. Has the science changed? Because, October 2013, it was 63% no. Now that's a tough number there. 63% voted no. Now, the turnout was low, but I can't I can't make people go vote. So that's not really a poll. That's what we have to go on. 63% said no. The purpose of the board was for me to gather facts. Has the science changed? Have the chemicals changed? No. The gentleman sat right there and said no. It's been the same more or less for the last 12, 15 years. So the mechanism for which those, if the chemicals haven't changed, then I have to go by what the people want. Our job when we're elected is to make decisions for our constituents. And if you make good decisions, or you make the decisions that are right, and most of the time it's not complicated, you know how you're supposed to vote, then you do your job. Sometimes, though, we get the luxury or the break of knowing what the people want, because the issue at hand went to vote in front of them. And that's what happened twice. 4 times, according to Mr. Talbot, but the last 2 times it was rejected pretty soundly. I think 63% is a pretty strong statement. It's hard to ignore that. I'm not for mosquito abatement. Walker has a mosquito control program, but I don't represent just Walker. I represent District 7. And 60-40. District 7 was 60-40. 60 against, 40 in the last election. So somewhat more than the parish average. But nonetheless, 60-40 against. I can appreciate gathering facts. I can appreciate getting out there and getting people in. We can do that. We can still do that. But in what you were saying, in the, was it 60% turnout in 2004? 60. That's a very big turnout. I don't even know if that's probably ever reached anything that high at all. It was 42% support. And that's still 8 shy of half of even half the vote. It's at some point you have to set aside and go, what do the people want? They do not want mosquito abatement. They don't want it. I think that's it should be clear. We can still gather the facts. We can still gather the information, and we should. I don't think that the numbers themselves from I don't think it's trending up. What they put in front of us, I don't see a trend up where things are getting worse. I just didn't see that, not in the paperwork that we had.
30 seconds.
So I think that we do have other issues, bigger issues here. Drainage is one of them. For certain, but I'm not. I think this is one of those things that we need to, put in perspective. What do the people want? Overall, what do they want? And they're very clear. Thank you.
All right, time's up. All right, before we have the council's rebuttal, I'm going to give the audience if they have any comments they would like to make on this issue. Anybody that has anything they would like to say?
I can say something, but 5 minutes is not going to be enough.
Well, I was going to allow you 3.
Okay. I'll try 3.
Be swift.
My name is Gaten Smith, and I live at 9295 North Street. I think you're my illustrious. Denham Springs. I'm pointing at Mr. King. Yes. Our parish has done an illustrious job of digging some mud holes in the ditches to make for a stagnant pond for growing mosquitoes. I agree with you on we need culvert machines to drain the culverts out. The other thing is, I agree with this gentleman over here about spraying chemicals, but my neighbor, he had dug a mud hole around his stump to get this stump up, and yesterday we drug the stump out, and it was a stagnant pond, but there were no mosquitoes in it. There were a lot of frog tadpoles in there. So the question is, can we enter into an agreement with the schools to teach ecology by growing frogs and dumping them in these stagnant ponds until we get a culvert machine? What about bats? Were bats, when I was a kid, they were out there, but you don't see them, many of them. And they ate a lot of mosquitoes. So this is a complex situation because you have some people, I personally didn't vote for the tax because I don't believe somebody in here who pays property tax should pay for my mosquito abatement. I believe I should pay my fair share. But I also believe there are people out there that $25 a year is a lot of money for them. My mother's one of them. She's on fixed income, so fixed it's like $700 a month. We fund her. So, and there are a lot of people out there that don't have this. So there are a lot of situations and things that we can do as individuals, but we need to be promoted to do so. Like Baton Rouge used to have a commercial, empty your water dishes, after it rains, empty the water. But again, I point back to the schools. How many schools we have in this parish? How much does it cost to raise frogs? I mean, is this something we can look into and possibly do in the interim? That's all I've got to say. I mean, I'd love not to swat mosquitoes, but it's kind of a fact of life here in the state of Louisiana. Isn't that our motto? State bird.
Second.
So, gentlemen, I mean, I don't envy your decision. I think it's an important decision we need to approach because of West Nile, scarlet fever, other things that come about. I know we used to have a lot of ticks till we got red ants. Now we don't have ticks, but we have red ants. So what the answer is, I can't say. 3 minutes up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Whoever's
Okay, my name is John Williams, 9421 North Street, Dillon Springs. Mr. Scooter knows me. You might even see me on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with mosquito abatement one way or the other. Some people said it worked, some people said it didn't work. That's in the past, and you got to make your own decision. But one thing I have noticed in the past, we did spend money for years, and my mother was on fixed income too. So I took care of the $35, and I don't regret that at all, because one child's life is a lot worth more than $35. But we spent all that money for these years for mosquito abatement. We bought all that equipment. Then the mosquito abatement went away. But I don't think there's a person in here that got a rebate on the $35 of all the equipment and the buildings that we bought. What happened to them? They were given away, stolen, or sold pennies on the dollar. And to me, that was a ripoff.
That's what the municipality is.
Spray with them.
Dillon Springs, Walker, and Livingston.
They're covered by you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The mosquito abatement might work. I'm not saying it, but I personally think too we can use a lot of money in a lot better areas, because I got a mosquito motel living next to me.
Yes,
Mr. Scooter really knows about it.
You get eat up when you go.
And the parish could actually be getting paid if they'd find the man that's legally supposed to be getting fined over this issue.
Yep.
So I mean, we all got to make our decisions, and whatever the board decides. I live in Livingston, I'll pay the $35 or I won't. But personally, I think we need to revamp, if we're going to have one, use the money a lot more wisely and get your big bang for your bucks that you pay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. My name's Gordon Courtney. I live at 31246 Old Baton Rouge Highway, formerly 28481, Highway 441. I've been up before this council before. I'll try to keep it brief because I know we got a game at 8 o'clock some people are trying to get to. Gentlemen, it's all about drainage. And my home flooded 3 times. I can tell you there's residents in this parish that don't care about anything else but preventing flooding. Whether it's 2 inches in your house or 5.5 feet, you don't want it. You don't want to walk in it. You don't want to try to go save whatever you can save out of it. It's drainage. And what I don't understand is how we can have a parish-wide school district, how we can have a parish-wide mosquito abatement board, but we can't have a parish-wide gravity drainage district, a consolidated gravity drainage district. How difficult is that? Then perhaps,
Pretty difficult.
well, then ask your constituents for help, because then we might not be surprised by an adjoining parish doing something that we have to worry about how it's going to further affect flooding in this parish. I came before this board after the March 2016 flood, and I explained that we needed to do something. And I was told, well, it's not that easy. We have to have meetings. We have to have studies. I said, you're one rain event away from the next flood. In August 2016, it happened. And I gave President Ricks a letter and asked him to address 11 questions regarding flooding in the Holden area. That was April of 2016. I still don't have my answers. So imagine how excited I am to put another tax into place, or to put the potential tax into place for something else, when I'm watching my property value go down because of the fear of flooding in the area. And I realize y'all have a tough job. I understand that. You have to be all things to all people, okay? But please, I beg of y'all, consider drainage first, and consider getting a consolidated drainage district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, at this time, I'll open the floor to the councilman. Let's keep it civilized.
You're not going to go around?
Mr. Shane?
Yeah, I just want to touch on one thing. I could spend $10 million to prevent one death or one illness, somebody that contacted West Nile. I would probably vote for it. But it was evident to me in the last meeting when East Baton Rouge Parish was spending $5.5 million a year, annually, on a mosquito abatement program, and they had twice as many cases of the West Nile nerve disease as Livingston Parish had. That told me that we could spend our entire budget and people may still be able to get that. To me, I think the best thing for Livingston Parish right now is to take personal accountability, such as the frogs, bats, those types of things. I just think that, and I encourage the future research, guys. But I think at this time we need to abolish this mosquito abatement board. I'm not for it.
All right. Mr. Lobel, you got anything to add?
The drainage is the key, Mr. Courtney. Right. Drainage is the key at this time for sure.
David?
Yeah. We keep going back to Baton Rouge. How many people does East Baton Rouge Parish have in it?
Way more than we do.
Wow. Way more than we do. I'm not, like I say, I'm not for mosquito abatement. I'm for education. We keep going back to drainage. The people in Livingston Parish on the east side have spoken. No drainage.
So we're gonna bring it up again?
We're gonna keep bringing it up.
Bring that up again.
Gonna bring it up again.
They said no.
So, talking about, mosquitoes, I'm in the woods probably more than anybody in this room.
I'll give you that.
I do. I probably get more bit by mosquitoes more than anybody in here. Luckily, I don't think I've had West Nile, but I have had Lyme disease, and I still have it.
But thank them,
And you don't think they got ticks in Livingston Parish? Get out there in them briars and you're going to find out.
They'll say, come to my house, buddy.
We got
I got them too.
That's it?
Yep.
I don't really have much to add other than we definitely tried to get gravity drainage in this whole parish. We know the need for that. We know that, you're taking care of two things with drainage and mosquitoes. I mean, that's way more useful to spend our money on than a mosquito abatement. I so wish it would have happened, because it would have helped everything out.
They didn't want to spend that money.
The people spoke. And unfortunately, what we need is more of the people that are for something to stand up and speak, instead of only the people that are against things. We don't have enough people that stand up that are for things. They just sit back, let the ones that are against it speak, and that's all we ever hear. That's it. That's what we hear. We don't hear the ones that's for.
don't hear the good things.
Yes. So that's all I have to add. Mr. Harris?
I really don't have anything except for, I'm glad that we do have a drainage district where I'm at.
Ooh, me too.
And I think it's working great, so.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah, quick, two things. I'd like to say this, that it seems like the reason we established a mosquito abatement board, from the beginning, it was sold as a way to educate people, and so if you voted against the board, which I did every time, it's like, well, no, we just want to learn. And my argument then was, no, you don't need a board to educate yourself. We don't need to create a separate district and a separate board. We can gather facts, gather all the facts we need. The only reason to create a board is to move forward with the mosquito abatement program, and which would lead to another tax. And, I want to stay as far away from a tax as I can, because I know the most important tax renewal coming up in this parish ever is going to be the road tax at the end of the year. That is going to determine the future of this parish. And I want to tell the constituents in Denham and all across this parish, I appreciate you voting no for taxes, and I'll support that 100%. Just give up all the taxes, but pick the most important one. And the most important one we're going to need for this parish is the road tax at the end of this year. So, I just think the board itself was a ploy, if I may say that word, to push forward for mosquito abatement. It wasn't a fact-finding board. You don't need a board to gather facts. So, again, that's the end of my rebuttal.
I'm going to defer my 3 minutes so Gary can have 6.
Oh, no.
I didn't want to be ugly, and I'm going to let Gary be ugly.
There you go. Mr. Talbot, floor is yours.
Tracy made a point. I talked about the 42-58 vote when we had 66% of the parish show up. And I talked about the fact that 42% of the people were for it, but we didn't know what the 58% were against. We didn't know if they were against mosquito abatement. We didn't know if they were against property taxes. We knew that there were 58% of people against something. And then we had another vote behind that. The council chose to shove down people's throat 1 year later with no repackaging, no information. And it took a whipping even worse, because even the city of Denham Springs, which had previously supported the 3 taxes, didn't support that. So, I think the question is, we all talk about what the people want. We don't really know. You can't look at those elections and tell what people want. You know what happened at that time, but you don't know what they want. Part of leadership is to gather information and formulate a plan so that if you need to act, you can act. So, you know something, if the council wants to abolish this board, so be it. But we all want to be educated. I think we need to set forth at every meeting somebody to come educate us. I think we ought to put 5 or 10 minutes aside at every meeting so somebody can come speak to us about mosquito abatement. Tell us what's going on in their area. Tell us things that we need to be looking for. Help us develop a plan of action. So from what I've heard, nobody in this room's against education. They just against the board. So if this council wants to eliminate the board, so be it. But I think we need to set forth, 5-10 minutes at every meeting to be educated about mosquito abatement. And then we'll find out if we really for education or if we really just, raised our flag and the wind was blowing, we don't want taxes. So we all just voted. Because trust me, I was on the record, John quoted me in the paper, I was not for an ad valorem tax to fund mosquito abatement. That's not even on the table as far as I'm concerned. Because the people that support mosquito abatement, I'm not for a tax. Scooter's not for a tax. So there's no way a tax was going to make a ballot. Leighton had talked to me when we did this introduction about this, and he was concerned about perception. I said, let me explain something to you. There was a well thought out plan here. There's a timeline established on this thing. There's basically 0% if this thing doesn't get beat in 2 weeks. That this council could not put something on the ballot. Because the boards won't be able to meet till the end of the year if the legislature takes upon the initiative that we need to put the 9 people on. So, by the time the board met, started gathering information, tried to figure out a plan, get costs together and put a budget, there's no time to put an election before we're all up for re-election. We're addressing a fall election in 2018 in March. And it's not something that's new. It's something that we've been planning for a couple of years. So what I'm telling you is people can say they're against taxes. That's not what this board was about. Now, this board does have an avenue at some point in time to put a proposal before people if the 9 councilmen who sat on the board saw fit. And so I'm not going to deny that one iota. But this board wasn't put together because of taxes. So I understand the will of the council. This vote's going to be 3 to 6 to 9. It's going to be 3 to 6 next week or 2 weeks from now, and this board's going to be abolished. And that's fine. As long as those of you who sat here and said you don't have a problem with education, don't have a problem with having somebody come speak to this council at every meeting to inform us about what's happening in the world with respect to mosquitoes, what they're doing in other parishes, and how they're able to treat people without harming them. Have you spray your own yard? You told me you spray your yard.
I do.
And you got fireflies out the gazoo, don't you? So, let's face it, that it's not mosquito spraying that's causing some of these things to happen. Because we've got evidence of somebody in this council that sprays their yard, yet the thing that's disappeared from this parish exists on his property.
Do you get bid on your property? I'm sorry.
It helps tremendously.
Okay.
I apologize, Mr. Talbot.
The point I'm trying to make here is that there is no blanket answer to this thing. We had a constituent come talk to us about education. Let me tell you something. Mosquito abatement is not about the little truck running down the road shooting spray out the back. Those commercials you saw in Baton Rouge were paid by the mosquito abatement people. Was paid by the mosquito abatement program in Baton Rouge. There's so much about mosquito abatement that's about education. It's about sampling. It's about prevention of disease. It's about educating people on what they need to do around their house. My stepdad and mom live in East Baton Rouge Parish, and they're able to call mosquito abatement, and they're able to come out to their house and treat their yard. They will come, if you've got a problem, they'll come investigate, figure out what your issues are, try to resolve them, and help spray your property. There's so much more to mosquito abatement than the little truck running down the road. That's not effective in rural areas. I will grant you that. because houses are so far off the road. But there are other avenues and there are other things that mosquito abatement does. And so for us to put our head in our sand and say it's about a little truck, you know, that's wrong.
Time. All right, Mr. Gurley.
I want to apologize for interrupting you, Mr. If you have more to say, I'll yield some of my time.
No, that's good. I'm good.
Okay. I just blurted out, I didn't mean to. So, you know, I think that you are correct. The last election was low turnout. So it's hard to go by what the majority of people want. Because if you got, what was it, 15%? 15% turned out? That's dismally low turnout. But nonetheless, that's what we're left. That's what we have. You know, that's what we have to go with. I can tell you that I haven't had any calls. I haven't. You know, I've talked to people when on mosquito abatement when they call for something else. You know, I'll ask them. You know, so what do you think about this? Just trying to get a sense of what's going on in my district. And other than the election, that's what I got. You know, you just kind of do a little straw poll. You go out there and you ask people. You go to the basketball games. You talk to people, and the consensus is, you know, they don't want it. Now, I am for education. I don't think you know the reasoning that like I gave before has the technology changed? It hasn't. Is there an imminent threat? Well, I mean, your guy saying there is, but then I don't know what they're using to come around with that with. So, but I would like to be educated on how they found that out. You know, I just don't think we need the board to do it. That's all I have.
All right.
All right, that should do it. Mr. Mack?
Well, I was just I think I already made the motion, right?
Yeah, Mr. Mack made the motion to abolish the mosquito board. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Thank you, Jeff.
Second by Mr. Watson.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
All right.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to table the introduction of ordinance LP 17-41.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second, so we need to vote on that one first. Yes. All right, Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel?
No.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
No.
Mr. R?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
No.
Mr. Darlinghouse?
No.
All right, motion fails. Move on to the original motion. Ms. Sandy, call for the vote. Oh, read it by title.
This will be proposed ordinance number 18-08, an ordinance to rescind LP ordinance number 17-41 adopted on October 12, 2017, providing for the creation of a mosquito abatement district and establishing a board in the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, comprising all that territory in the parish is set out herein and providing for other matters in connection therewith. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on March 22nd.
I think we've had plenty of comments. Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
No.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
No.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. R?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Darlinghouse?
Yes.
Intro carries.
All right, number 19, discuss getting council employee comp time in line with the parish guidelines. All right, we'll defer that for now. District attorney report?
No report.
No report. Committee reports. Ordinance committee, Mr. Mack?
Yes, we have an upcoming meeting to discuss 4 ordinances, March the 12th. What time did we say? 6:30 here in the council chambers. Everybody's invited to attend. I would also like to say that I didn't realize that when we set this meeting that the Tangipahoa Parish Council as a meeting on the second and fourth Monday of every month. So this would be untelevised meeting unless you guys really want it to be televised. So I'd like to say that and make sure everybody knows that if you want to hear what's going on, you're going to need to show up. And look forward to that meeting. And just so everybody knows, we're going to talk about a junk car ordinance, we're going to talk about a pond ordinance, we're going to talk about the minor subdivision ordinance, and we're going to talk about that construction ordinance that we talked about last meeting.
All right. Finance Committee, Mr. Talbot?
Finance Committee met today, found out, that where we're on tax revenue collections. It was like the first real, information we got on where we were in this year's budget. But just, that was it. We're required to meet once a month, so we met and got that information. At the same time, I want to go ahead and let you know I resigned as chairman and from the Finance Committee today. They're going to be need to find a new chairman, a new member. I've done it for a little over 2 years, and it's time for somebody else to learn a little bit about how the finances of the parish work. So just want to let y'all know that.
All right. 22, councilman comments. Anybody got any comment?
Yeah, I got a comment. If you have an opinion about mosquito abatement, positive or negative, I would recommend that you show up in the meeting in 2 weeks. The consensus is that the people of Livingston Parish don't want mosquito abatement. And I feel that there's a silent majority that do. And I'm going to recommend that if the silent majority really want mosquito abatement, they better show up and speak their mind, or this thing's going to go away. So, I'm just going to challenge those of you who have talked to me about it, who want it, who came to me originally that asked that we, get the Mosquito Abatement Board back, that you take the time and put forth the effort and come out here on the 22nd at 6 o'clock. And let's fill the chamber, and let's let them know that there is a silent majority that are in favor of mosquito abatement. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. But before everybody takes off, as soon as we adjourn, the principal has asked that we take a picture and send to him so he can show the boys they about to get ready to play. So I'll just ask that y'all, let's take a picture after we do that. I got a motion by Mr. Lobel to adjourn, second by Mr. Averitt. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?